Love me or leave me, and let me be lonely. You won't believe me, but I love you only. I'd rather be lonely than happy with somebody else. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tilting Ground, Untitled Notre Dame USC football podcast. I'm Michael Muto. I'm here with Greg Flamon. Merry Christmas, Greg.
Merry Christmas, Michael. Season's greetings.
Season's greetings. That's an old Sammy Davis Jr. song. You probably didn't write it since they all did standards back then, but I heard it today, and I was, going through all the old Christmas stuff, and I'm like, man, that's just what it sounds like to have a favorite team. So it's kind of a slow week in USC Notre Dame news, but there was at the beginning of the week, Steve Sarkisian popped into the news for the Trojans, and I really was surprised how many people had an opinion on this. I looked through the message boards and the Twitter and the Facebook posts and stuff just to see, take the temperature of USC fan nation. And everybody had something to say about Sark. And he's just so polarizing. I had no idea.
Well, let's hear this one, because I feel like there's not really like a take, but I mean, I'm curious to hear what people were saying.
So, just to get everyone up to speed, Steve Sarkisian, the former USC coach, who was fired for being an alcoholic, pretty much.
Yeah. Not for being
true.
an alcoholic,
For
being an alcoholic at work.
That's true. Yes.
You can be an alcoholic, you just can't be an alcoholic like in public.
Right. So, so he was fired, and so this week he's out of rehab. He's cleaned up. And he sued USC for wrongful termination. And
what you do when you get out of rehab.
This is the first thing.
Yeah.
And I think, he said that Pat and Hayden knew he had a problem. This was something that, Pat Hayden was kind of a jerk about how he fired him. He wanted him to keep coaching, or at least get through the weekend when everything kind of went south for the Trojans and Steve Sarkisian. It's wrongful termination, and of course he's trying to get at the very least his contract paid out.
Right. Yeah.
So what I saw was everyone just saying, "Oh, if you have a drinking problem, that's on you, and how dare you sue the school?" And it was really just, that's not really a disability. Oh, that was one of the things his lawsuit was. His drinking problem's a disability.
Yeah.
And you can't fire someone for their disability. I mean, I don't know the laws all that well, but yeah, and everyone was like, "That's not a disability. It's your choice to drink." And it was kind of crazy how everyone was just had an opinion. And I feel like when this went down, when Steve Sarkisian was actually fired, it happened he got on a leave of absence on Sunday, which is when we actually recorded the podcast. And then the next day he was fired.
This is a Sunday before the Notre Dame USC game.
Yes. To put it back in perspective for everyone. So,
yeah, we're talking like the 11th.
Yeah, we kind of said,
of October.
Like, he's never going to be the coach again.
No.
Which I think is very fair if you show up drunk and you're in charge of kids these are 18-year-old kids for some of them.
Well, you're in charge of quote-unquote student athletes.
Yeah, they're not even allowed to drink. Some of them, they're not even old enough.
Right.
And, that's a bad thing. That's true, regardless if it's a problem or if it's your disability or whatever. Like, that's a bad situation. Now, kind of where I'm coming in on this is I think it's just another example of the school handling things poorly, and specifically Pat Hayden. It's not how you do things. It's not how you fire someone. It's funny. We said it during the podcast, the Steve Sarkisian podcast. They fired Lane Kiffin weird, and it's funny when it happens to Lane Kiffin. Like, "Oh, you got fired in an airport. Like, way to go, bro." Like, that's funny. But now look how they fire Sarkisian. Oh, you put him on leave of absence, and then the next day, no, now he's fired. Well, what did he do in 18 hours to go from leave of absence to fired? That's just not how you handle your business.
Right.
It was
definitely. They definitely did. Like, it did appear that they just kind of cut him loose. Like, it was just like, yeah, he's fired, he's out. And normally what you would do is like what it seemed like they were going to do on Sunday was, they were just going to like, okay, like he's taking leave of absence, and then, he's going to, try to get better, and we're going to support him and all that stuff. And then the next day, it's like, okay, he's out.
Yeah.
And when we said, like, he's never going to coach again, just because, like, logistically, like, I mean, if he's going to go to rehab or whatever, like, he can't come back in, like, week 8 or then, like, after, like, the 8th or 9th game and be like, okay, I'm ready to coach again.
Right. That's not fair to the players.
Yeah. So I think this was basically, the lawsuit isn't about Steve Sarkisian not being the coach anymore. It's about getting his money and his contract.
Yeah.
And I think that USC, what they were doing was about, firing him with cause, which probably in their mind voids the contract. So they were trying to save money while he's trying to get his money. So, I mean, basically, it's a business decision that is being played out in college athletics.
Right, totally.
Yeah, so like that, the look of that is really bad because, whether, like, money in college athletics right now is kind of a big topic in and of itself. So, like, now you're having a university make these financial decisions over a coach who is showing up to practice and games inebriated. Meanwhile, the players that he's coaching are quote unquote amateurs who, can't have someone buy them a ham and cheese sandwich. So, like, that's why this looks so bad, is because he's suing them for the money owed, and they are trying to get away from the money owed when we're talking about a college institution.
Right.
So, like you said, like, I totally agree. Like, they need to do better. And frankly, like, I mean, it's like we said before, like Pat Hayden, again, handling something incorrectly.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I mean, how it should have gone was, USC has lawyers. Like, they're probably one of the richest schools around. How it goes is you put him in rehab, and you pay him for however long he's in rehab. Just keep paying him whatever. It can't be that much money in the grand scheme of things. And you get your attorneys to write something up, and you say, "Hey, Steve, sorry, this is what we're gonna do. This is the law. We understand you have a problem, but we're gonna give you X amount of money to go away, and it'll be a clean break for both of us. Like, you really can't have you coaching here anymore. Like, it's not a good look for either party." And maybe he pushes back with a little more money or something, and it just goes away. And you do it in May, on a Friday in May. This comes out, or a Friday in February.
Yeah.
And it's like it just goes away, and it's not a thing.
Well, so
and now it's a thing.
Let me ask you, what do you think comes of this?
I think he gets his $12 million. Because
$12 million?
I think that's what the rest of his contract was. I think he wants more. If you read the lawsuit, it goes up to like 30 for damages and whatnot.
Damages and stuff.
Yeah, but I think the gist is, hey, I just want to be paid out my contract. But I think he gets it because someone said, hey, what SC's going to do is just air all his dirty laundry. And it's like, well, they can't do that because if they knew all these things, that makes them look even worse.
That's the thing. That's the thing that I was kind of getting at. Or that I was going to say is, like, first of all, they're going to settle.
Yeah.
For one, because Steve Sarkisian, what does he care? Like, he's already been humiliated.
Yeah, he can't look worse.
Yeah, so it's like you want to talk about all the stuff that I did, okay, like, and that's probably where he's coming from. It's like you knew, like, in the discovery process, like, you knew what was going on, and you let it go. So why now all of a sudden it's some big problem and you're not going to pay me my money? Because, like, the idea that, like, oh, it's my disability or whatever, I mean, is it even classified as a disability by like
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure somewhere maybe, but
agencies? A disability is something that you're born with. At least that's my, you're born with something that is, disabling. I mean, you could make the case you're born with a predilection to
right.
be addicted to something, but that's, I mean,
some chemical imbalance. But I mean, yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
It's like that's for science, not us.
That's just potential. Like, so I think they'll just end up settling.
Because they can only look worse. That's the bottom line. Is
Yeah.
USC can only look worse. And thanks for putting the Trojans in this position, Pat Hayden.
He's it's really just amazing. Like the more you think about it, or like like it never gets old. How crazy it is that he still gets to make decisions regarding the football program.
I just can't wait till something happens with the basketball team, or like anything's on the table now. Like he could cut a player, like watch him revoke someone's scholarship. And be like, what, you didn't know Hayden could do that?
Clay Helton could get fired tomorrow.
Yeah, anything's on the table. Yeah. It's just crazy. It's just bananas out with this guy in charge.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is he was supposed to be like the calming person to set the program right.
The guy who had to be talked into taking the job is now like somehow untouchable and refuses to like give in. It's great.
I just can't believe you go from sanctions to the crazy guy in charge.
Exactly.
It's just handling yourselves, maturely and appropriately. It just doesn't seem that hard.
No.
No, especially when you have all the money. Like I get,
especially for the adults.
Yeah, and I understand the kids doing dumb things.
Yeah.
Like Josh Shaw, he jumped off a balcony and lied about it. Yeah, he's 22.
But then, you know what? He came back and was like, yeah, I lied.
Yeah. But nope, not these guys. Not the adults.
No, they double down on their mistakes.
Well, let's change it up to some happier news. It's award season. And some Irish players got some awards, Greg. Who got what?
Well, there's a ton of like all-American teams out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some that are important and some that like you don't really know about. I think the biggest one that came out was the USA Today All-American team. I think people, was it the AP? No, the
AP came out today.
AP, yeah, the AP All-American team came out today, and I think people care about that. Just like there's an AP poll.
Yeah.
So, Jalen Smith was named to the first team on defense. Will Fuller, Ronnie Stanley, and Sheldon Day were a second team. So that's kind of fun.
That is kind of fun.
Yeah, and then Jalen Smith won the Buckus for the best linebacker.
Well deserved.
Yeah, some of these things are funny, like because that ESPN has their little award show or whatever that I didn't watch, but I did notice that. So Jalen Smith won the Butkus for the best linebacker, and in the country,
right?
And so then I saw the Lombard who was the? Is
it Outland? Is that best? No, that's lineman. Chuck Bednarik. I think the Bednarik Award. I think that's best defensive player.
For the best defensive player. And there's two linebackers on it, and not Jalen Smith.
It is strange how that works.
I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, like he's the best linebacker in college, but the best defensive player, he's not even like a candidate. So I thought that was pretty cute.
Ronnie Stanley, Polynesian Player of the Year.
No, he wanted it. I did hear a couple of places like that really mattered to him. I think we joked about it a couple of times, but I think that it really mattered to him that he won that.
Well, I think it's a very tight knit community. So
Yeah,
I
yeah, I think
imagine
it meant something to him.
the guys we know who are Polynesian probably vote on that, and it's taken very seriously.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Notre Dame had their banquet. Did USC have their banquet? When did they do that? Do they do that?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. To be fair,
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen anything, so I think it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Notre Dame one is always around this time. So, I mean, most of the awards are as you would expect.
Well, you wrote a little something about your own awards.
I did. I wanted to have some fun. I figured, people like it's people talk about like Ronnie Stanley and Jalen Smith and all those guys all the time. So I figured I'd come up with awards that people like wouldn't really think about. So like I thought the most improved like unit on the team was special teams. And people didn't really talk about it, but it's been a sore spot for fans with Brian Kelly. Just like throughout his tenure, like people think he has terrible special teams, and they scored 4 touchdowns on special teams this year.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, C.J. Sanders returned a punt and a kickoff for a touchdown. They blocked the punt for a touchdown against USC, and they had a fake field goal for a touchdown against Virginia. So that's something. So I mean, even right there, like just counting that, I mean that's like an improvement in special teams all around. And then you had the freshman kicker go 15-17, and he didn't miss a field goal in October or November. So
it's pretty good. That's when it matters.
Yeah, and the good thing about freshman kickers and all that is like he's definitely not going pro early. So, and they don't really get hurt. So it's like that like yeah, he's going to be around for the next 3 years, and we don't have to worry about it.
SC's kicker got a concussion, Greg. It can happen.
Well, the good news is the kicker, the field goal kicker, like he only kicks field goals.
Oh, okay.
So he's not the kickoff guy.
You're good. You're good then at Notre Dame.
Yeah, so he doesn't have to like tackle anyone. It's not like a big concern, which is nice. So, yeah, I gave the let's see, what did I do? I gave the play of the year to Kaiser to Fuller.
Obviously,
I mean, at the end of the Virginia game. Well, I mean, there are a lot of great plays, but I feel like that particular play, like it pretty much like saved the season.
Set the tone, I think, for the rest of the way too.
Yeah, because I mean, they had lost Zaire, and it's like you have a lot of things that like at the time, like yeah, like we know CJ Prosise is really good now, but at the time it's like he was only that was only his first start.
Right.
And Deshaun Kaiser, like the only thing we'd seen from him was in the spring game, and he couldn't complete a pass. Like he was terrible. So it's like, so you lose your quarterback, and then if you go and lose the game, like, the next week you had Georgia Tech, who at the time people thought was really good, and then you had Clemson, USC, and Stanford still to play. It's like, dude, this could be like, we could be like 6-6 or 5-7. If you lose to Virginia on the road, I mean, then it's like, oh man, like,
yeah,
and then you start thinking about like, oh god, like
what a waste. Why am I watching this?
It's a waste. Like the season ended, and like the third quarter of the second game, and everyone's gonna want to fire Brian Kelly, and I don't want to go through another coaching search. I hate this. And then Kaiser finds a way, finds Will Fuller, and they go on a little run. They lose to Clemson by 2, but then they win like 7 straight. So before dropping a thriller to Stanford. But yeah, I mean, that one play pretty much saved the season. I gave the star who I called it the star who no one knows is a star to the right tackle, Mike McGlinchey. Statistically, he's had a better season than Ronnie Stanley. So Um, I mean, I don't. He's got a lot of things. I mean, he's playing right tackle instead of left tackle, so Stanley's going up against better players on a day-to-day basis. But
Still,
yeah, I mean, the stats don't lie. 98.7 pass marking percentage. So
that's good stuff.
he acquitted himself well this season, Michael. So
Who was the Notre Dame MVP at the banquet?
it was Will Fuller.
Oh, that makes sense,
I
I
was a little
guess.
surprised. I was surprised. I mean, you know, deserving. I mean, it's hard to argue against him, but I thought it would be Ronnie Stanley.
I mean, I think you got to be like really, really good as an offensive lineman to be your team MVP.
Well, here's the thing, Michael. Generally speaking, and I should say that like the award was voted on by the players, so you know it's not like the coaches had a choice or anything. So I mean, if the players think so, the players think so. You know, I'm not on the team, but generally, like you would give an award like this, like if you have two guys that are kind of equal, you'd give the award to the upperclassmen. And Ronnie Stanley's a senior and Will Fuller's a junior. But I mean, that's kind of a, you know, I don't think they should have given it to Ronnie Stanley because of that. I think they should have given it to Ronnie Stanley because the line was the best part of the team and
makes
he's the
sense.
best player on the line.
That does make sense.
Yeah, the offensive line was the most important piece of what Notre Dame did this year. I mean, you can't run deep routes to Will Fuller if the quarterback doesn't have time for that. And, I mean, CJ Prosise and Josh Adams, you know, they had really good seasons, but, I mean,
why?
Turn on a game. Well, you can just turn on a game and see, I mean, there's a number of runs that, like, they're just not touched. I mean, Josh Adams has a 62-yarder against Stanford. It's in between the tackles and no one touches him.
Right.
Now, granted, he did well on that play, but I mean, someone's opened up holes there. So, yeah, I just feel like you have the best unit on the team, the best player on that unit. I mean, he's probably going to be the number 3 pick in the draft, which is another thing.
That's true.
And it's like, look, everyone knows, like, I love Will Fuller. But, I mean, he did lay an egg in 2 games this year, one of which was against Clemson when they kind of called him out. And, you know.
And they could have used him.
Exactly. So they didn't really he didn't play a great game there. So, you know, when you no-show against Clemson and Boston College, you know, it's kind of, I feel like you can't really do that and be the MVP of the team. But, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, obviously a lot of spectacular plays this year. So,
well, speaking of controversial MVP candidates, I looked it up. USC's team banquet was today, Sunday. Would you want to guess who USC's most valuable player was?
Well, you said controversial.
Yes.
So, the team MVP.
I mean, it's only one of like 4 guys, to be fair.
I'm going to say it's Juju.
It is not Juju.
Adoree Jackson.
That's the one, Mr. Cornerback wide receiver, Adoree Jackson.
Huh.
The reason I think it's controversial is I'm not sure how good he is at defense. Like I don't know if he's a lockdown corner, if people aren't throwing his way. The defense wasn't that great to begin with. They got run all over, so you know, and every now and then they get passed all over too. But I mean, I just don't know how good he is on defense. I have no real barometer to judge. I'm not a defensive back. I don't.
Well, he's like he's kind of like the Jalen Smith. He's got the Jalen Smith thing going on a little bit. Like, people know Jalen Smith is good. Like, you can watch him, and you know, you can say to yourself, that guy is awesome. Like, you just know it. You don't need to look at stats or anything. You just kind of know. But like, he doesn't make a ton of like big plays. Now, granted, like, he had over 100 he had 113 tackles, so it's not like he's doing nothing. And he did have 9 tackles for loss. But Adoree Jackson is kind of similar in that, like, I mean, he's got 24 catches for 382 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Like not great. I guess he doesn't play all that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 16 yards a catch. I mean, that's not. He's got 6 carries for 35 yards. So really, it's like, yeah, he's a two-way player, but I mean, he didn't even account for 400 yards of offense.
Right. He has 1 interception. Like.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Well, he was on the promotional. He was on the promotional material for the Holiday Bowl, so.
He had 31 tackles. He was 11th on the team.
Not very good either, but he's a corner. Like, he shouldn't be making a lot of tackles. Though I think Amon Marshall had a bunch.
Kavari Russell, Amon Marshall had 60. I mean, Kavari Russell had 60 in 12 games.
And he did miss Adoree Jackson missed a game.
In 11 games. Did he?
Adoree Jackson, yeah, he missed Idaho, I think. I mean, he was there, but
I've got him down for 13.
I think
but even so, like, he averaged 2.4 tackles a game. Like,
not great.
No. Tackles for loss, probably didn't have any.
Probably not.
No.
No sacks, I assume. Yeah. Oh, he had a block kick. That's fun. He had a punt return.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like, he was around and he was doing things.
Yeah, so, I mean, he gets credit for, like, I mean, he just gets credit for being good. Like, just
right.
Watch him. Like, people watch him and they say, oh, he's really good. I mean,
he's not the best
defensive
player.
At the same time, like, it was the MVP of the team getting burnt for 75 yards in the first play against Notre Dame. So the dueling MVPs.
I don't know, man. At least it wasn't Cody Kessler.
I feel like you could have gone with Stuart Cravens there.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, he had 5.5 sacks. Check these tackles for loss. 14.5 tackles for loss. I mean,
he only had 5.5 sacks. I thought he had more. I mean, not many more, but.
Well, 5.5. I mean, it's a pretty good amount.
Oh yeah.
For a guy who doesn't. I mean, they blitz him a lot. I mean, he had 14.5 tackles for loss.
I think he led the team in tackles.
He tied with Cameron Smith.
Yeah, I was gonna say, though that would not have been the case had Cameron Smith continued to play.
Yeah, Cameron Smith only played in 10 games. So, yeah. So I mean, no Joe Schmidt.
Here's another funny thing. So the perimeter player of the year for USC on offense was Juju Smith-Schuster, and the perimeter player of the year on defense was Stuart Cravens. Neither of those players are Adoree Jackson.
Well, not right, but like because the offensive MVP on Notre Dame's team was Ronnie Stanley, and then the MVP of the team.
They tried to double up.
Yeah. It's like you want to make sure. Like what did they do? Like CJ Forsyth won like the Next Man In award. Like he doesn't have it. That's not an award.
Right. Everybody gets something like.
Yeah, like they wanted to recognize the fact that he had a great season, even though he only played in like 8 games.
Got it. USC had some All-Americans as well. The other second-team All-American wide receiver was Juju Smith-Schuster.
Smith.
Both our guys were second-team All-Americans. Though I don't think Big 12 players should get to be first-team All-Americans, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? And then Stuart Cravens was a linebacker. I believe he was a second-team All-American linebacker.
Second-teamer.
That's good. I don't think he made his decision yet. I think it's Christmas or something. No, it's his dad's birthday. It's whatever he's announcing on his dad's birthday if he's coming back or not. And he says he's only coming back, or he's only leaving if he gets a first-round grade from that committee that grades players.
So what do you think?
I don't think he'll get a first round grade just because he kind of doesn't have a position. So I think he'll be back.
I don't think he will either.
But then that makes me worried because I think he wants to be a safety. So now he might tell the coaches like, hey, I come back, but I play safety. Which is fine. I mean, I don't care.
I mean, it wouldn't be like the worst idea.
Yeah, like they got a bunch of linebackers, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, play the position that you are going to play at the next level.
I guess I'm okay with that. That's where he started.
Yeah. I wish Notre Dame would have done that with Jalen Smith, but
what do you think he'd be at the next level?
He's going to be a Sam.
Okay.
So basically he'll play basically more on the perimeter. Gotten coverage more, blitz more. I mean, he's playing the will. He's basically essentially playing like an inside linebacker, but not like in the middle. They didn't use him that much in an attacking role, which we've talked about ad nauseum.
This is true. We have talked about that a whole bunch.
Yeah. So
but you told me before we started this that you had some Will Fuller news. Speaking of people going pro.
Yeah, he's kind of slow played what his earlier announcement that he was coming back. I kind of expected it just because the day after he made his announcement, Brian Kelly, it was his weekly press conference, and he kind of was like, well, let's pump the brakes on it a little bit. Like, I know what he said, but we're going to go through the process with all the guys who are thinking about coming out early. So, and I'd kind of heard from a couple people that like, yeah, he's now kind of undecided. Which is fine.
Maybe he heard me call him out on the podcast, and I ruined it for you.
I mean, like what you said about like that whole thing is true. Jalen Smith, right? Like if he came back, it would only be because he wants to win a national title at Notre Dame,
which is weird,
and get his degree. It wouldn't be weird. It's just like if he's gonna be a top 10 pick, I just don't see how you come back to college.
Right.
You have nothing to gain, right?
No.
I don't know what he could do to even be like the number 1 pick. I mean, I guess he could, but
a linebacker in today's NFL? I mean,
he would take a unique person, a really unique person, and be like, you know what? Like, I am truly committed to, winning a national championship.
I feel like that person would have said that when they were a sophomore, though. Like
maybe. I mean, he's just too good,
Yeah.
And I honestly, like, I haven't gotten any indication from him or anyone else that he's even considering not going to NFL. So, but the point is though, is like he doesn't have things at the college level that he needs to work on, whereas Will Fuller does.
And his coach puts him in bad positions. So maybe
Jalen Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to play another year out of position. Cool. But yeah, Will Fuller, like, he's not going to get a first-round grade. He just won't. I mean, he drops way too many passes. He's not big enough. He's a good route runner, but he's not fantastic. Like, and he doesn't just drop passes. Like, he fights the ball sometimes. Like, you can see it. Like, he's struggling to, figure out how he wants to catch it, how he wants to place his hands. Like, his hand placement isn't the greatest. He doesn't do well in traffic.
Here's a question, not to cut you off, but
no, it's fine.
Who do you think is, because sometimes it's who you're going out with in your draft class. So who do you think is better than Will Fuller that's going out right now?
Who's coming out?
Who's coming out? Yeah. Just off the top of your head. I mean, I kind of put you on the spot. Sorry.
Who do I think is better than him?
Yeah.
I mean, that Corey Coleman kid is probably better than him. I guess. Let me look at it. I mean, Juju Smith is better, but he's not.
He's not coming out.
He's not coming out. I
That's
mean,
kind of
there's guys that.
That's what made me think of it was, well, if he waits next year, then Juju Smith is probably that receiver ahead of him just because he's so big.
But like he doesn't. See, that's the thing though. Like he doesn't have to be. You know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't. So Laquan Treadwell can come out, and he probably will since he tore up his leg. So you've got Michael Thomas, the guy from Ohio State. He's number one according to WalterCampFootball.com. I mean, I don't think they don't have juniors on here. That's why. I was like, dude, Will Fuller is not even in the top 20. Like, guys that I think are better than him, like Corey Coleman is probably better than him. Laquan Treadwell is probably better than him. I mean, he's like a Des Bryant kind of guy. I don't think Tyler Boyd is better than him, although he's like 6'2", 190. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they've got that Mike Williams, the receiver from Clemson, who broke his neck.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, he's 6'3", 205. So, I mean, these guys are just, I mean, he doesn't have that kind of size. And he has the speed, you know, he's faster than everybody, but, you know, when you're a receiver and you struggle to catch the ball on a consistent basis, that's a problem. And, like, it's something that he can work on. And it's like, yeah, he can go to the pros and work on it for sure. But it's like, do you want to be a third rounder? You know, or do you want to be a first rounder?
Right.
Because they don't owe you anything. Like, if you're a third rounder and you kind of struggle coming out, it doesn't mean you're going to get a second chance. But if you're a first rounder, they're going to work with you. Like, they're going to give you, you know, time to figure it out because they spent a pick on you. You know, so.
No, I'm right there with you. So Tyler Boyd,
So, yeah.
I'm looking at a list here as we talk. Stuart Cravens is Sports Illustrated's 19th best player.
Oh.
Yeah, they don't even have Will Fuller in the top, like, 7 of wide receivers. So, yeah, I guess it's probably good. I don't even see his name yet at all. Maybe because he said he was coming back, they took him off the list, though.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Because they have this Pharaoh Cooper kid from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Though he's good. I would just assume Will Fuller is better.
Corey Robinson's 31st. Blech.
Huh. Yeah, but that's all I was thinking was, well, if he waits, then he may have to deal with Juju Smith, and he still won't be the number one wide receiver. But whatever.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's a good place to leave it off. We talked about the award. We talked about Steve Sarkisian. That's pretty much the hot news for this week. We have some fun stuff in store for next week. I promise. I gave it last week, but we definitely have some fun stuff in store for next week. And then it's the bowl games, and we're back to our usual schedule. Please follow us on iTunes. Subscribe on iTunes. While you're there, leave a review. We also have a Facebook page. It's TIltingground, Untitled, Notre Dame, USC football. You can find it if you search for that on Facebook. We have news stories about USC. We had who won the awards, the All-Americans. We had Greg wrote something for the Notre Dame, or was it UHND?
UHND.com.
We had a link to that for everyone. Also on Twitter, it's TIltingground on Twitter. Greg, what's your Twitter?
At Greg2126.
There's also a TIltingground NFL podcast. So you type in TIltingground to iTunes, and that's there for you. They got you covered. They do a good job. You should definitely listen to that. I'm Michael Muto on Twitter. And even though there's no one to play, I guess fight on.
Go Irish!